This story begins with Wo-song, an ordinary man living a typical 9-to-5 life, just like everyone else. But deep down, he carried one burning dream: to become rich. And in a world where money moves faster than time, he started wondering, what's the quickest way to get there? It was the year 2020, and property prices were skyrocketing at an unbelievable pace. Watching this, Song came up with what he believed was a brilliant plan. He decided to sell his house, take out a massive loan, and invest everything into a high-end apartment in a rapidly growing building. His idea was simple. He would live there until the loan was paid off, then rent it out at a high price. The rent alone, almost equal to his salary, would take care of his expenses, and at the same time, he would own a premium asset worth 1.1 billion won. And if the market kept rising, that value could jump to 5 billion. He could sell it, make a huge profit, start his own business, and finally live the life he always dreamed of. With this vision in mind, Song went ahead and bought a unit in a building where prices were increasing almost every hour. He sold his house for the down payment and poured in all his savings. But the moment he stepped into this new life, everything changed. Yes, he now owned a luxury apartment, and society started treating him like an elite. Soon after, he even got engaged. For a moment, it felt like everything was falling perfectly into place. But then, the world changed. The pandemic hit and everything collapsed. Businesses started shutting down and property prices began to crash. By 2024, the apartment Song bought for 1.1 billion had dropped to just 800 million. And now, instead of building wealth, he was drowning in debt. His entire salary was consumed by loan payments, leaving him with almost nothing to survive on. To make ends meet, Song started working delivery jobs after office hours. He would stretch a single meal into 3 just to survive the day. He stopped using fans and lights at home to save electricity, buying rechargeable ones instead, which he secretly charged at his office. Sometimes, desperation pushed him so far that he even stole food from the cafeteria. The same apartment that once promised him a better life was now slowly destroying it. His engagement broke, his dreams shattered, and every day became a struggle just to get by. As if this wasn't enough, Song began hearing constant construction noises from above his apartment. The sound was unbearable, driving him insane. He went upstairs to confront the neighbor, but the man calmly insisted that the noise wasn't coming from his unit. Confused and frustrated, Song returned home, only to find that his own neighbors were now blaming him. They started leaving notes, begging him to stop the noise, saying the entire building was disturbed. Desperate for answers, Song finally went to confront the building owner, In-ho. He explained how the noise was ruining his life, how he couldn't sleep, and how everyone in the building was suffering. He had already filed complaints, but nothing had been done. In-ho listened carefully, then calmly told him that he knew Song wasn't responsible. It was a construction issue, and he needed 2 months to fix it. But Song, exhausted and broken, couldn't accept that. He snapped, saying he didn't buy an expensive apartment just to suffer like this, that he hadn't had a single peaceful night. That's when In-ho quietly placed an envelope full of money in front of him and repeated, "Just 2 months." Song went silent. He was struggling, desperate, and out of options. The money was too tempting to ignore. The first thing he did after leaving was simple. He bought food and ate until he was finally full. The next day, he returned to work feeling slightly better, as if for a moment, life had given him a break. But that peace didn't last long. At the office, his friend mocked his decision, calling him foolish for investing everything into one property. He told Song that if he had invested in cryptocurrency instead, he could have made a 700% return by now. Claiming to be an expert, his friend convinced him that even now, it wasn't too late. If he invested, he could make huge profits within a week. Song hesitated. He had no money left. But his friend pushed harder, saying opportunities like this don't come often. If he could somehow gather 85 million won, all his debts would disappear, and his life would become easy again. Hearing this, something inside Song changed. His stress, his fear, everything seemed to fade away, replaced by a dangerous hope. Determined, he decided to get the money by any means necessary, even if it meant mortgaging his already sinking apartment. He invested, and just like his friend promised, within minutes, he started making profits. For the first time in a long while, happiness returned to Song's life. He stopped going to work, spending 4 straight days glued to his phone and laptop, watching the numbers rise. It felt like he had finally found his escape. But then, he was told to wait 6 days. The wait filled Song with a strange excitement, slowly turning into obsession. His behavior became erratic, almost manic, and the people around him began to notice. The neighbors, already frustrated by the constant noise, started believing that Song himself was creating it, not out of necessity, but for some twisted pleasure. Fed up, they filed a police complaint. When the police arrived, Song panicked. He desperately tried to explain that he was innocent, even inviting them to search his apartment if they didn't believe him. At that very moment, Inho, the building owner, stepped in and tried to defend Song, insisting that he wasn't responsible. But the residents refused to listen. They demanded a full search. Song stood there, confident, because he knew he had done nothing wrong. But then, everything changed. During the search, the police discovered a hidden room inside Song's apartment, a room he had no idea even existed. Inside, there was a phone connected to a speaker system, continuously generating the very noise that had been haunting him for years. For 4 years, Song had lived there, suffering every day, and yet, he never realized the source was inside his own home. Shock quickly turned into rage, but before he could process anything, the police arrested him. That very day, his crypto investment required urgent action. He begged the officers to let him go just for a moment, promising he would return. He pleaded, saying it was critical, but they refused to listen. As he was being taken away, his investments started collapsing. The losses began piling up instantly, and Song knew he couldn't survive this. Desperate, he made an excuse to use the bathroom. Inside, he quickly grabbed a phone from a nearby desk, locked himself in a room, and switched on a computer. His hands trembled as he tried to access his account. He had to close the trade. He had to save whatever was left. But the police weren't far behind. They broke down the door and rushed in, trying to drag him out. Still, Song refused to stop. Even when they tasered his hand, he kept trying to click the button. Just one click, that's all he needed. But before he could do it, a police officer shut down the computer. In that moment, everything went dark. The electric shock knocked Song unconscious, and with it, his last chance disappeared. When he finally woke up, he learned the truth. The noise. It was never his fault. It wasn't anything supernatural either. It was all part of something much darker. The husband of the woman who had been leaving complaint notes was somehow involved. Song returned home, only to find it completely destroyed. The place he once called his dream had turned into ruins. He had lost his job, his reputation, his future, everything. The apartment he sacrificed his entire life for was gone due to the crypto loan. He had nothing left. Broken and hopeless, Song began writing a suicide note. It felt like the only escape. But then, a thought crossed his mind. His mother. He couldn't leave her behind like this. Slowly, he put the pen down, choosing to live, even if life had nothing left to offer. As he sat there, trying to turn on his broken phone, he noticed something else. Another phone inside the apartment. The same one connected to the noise system. He tried unlocking it, but couldn't guess the password. However, it was still connected to Wi-Fi. So he decided to track the signal. The source was coming from directly above his apartment. It led to Jinho's house, the very man who had pressured the police to arrest him. Song immediately went upstairs and knocked on Jinho's door, asking casually for the Wi-Fi password. But Jinho denied even having Wi-Fi. That's when Song knew something was very wrong. This wasn't a coincidence. He was being framed. Determined to uncover the truth, Song waited for the right moment. And when Jinho left his apartment, Song quietly slipped inside. As he explored the house, what he found shocked him. There was an entire surveillance setup. Screens, cameras, everything. Jinho had been watching every single resident in the building. In another room, Song found photographs and detailed notes about each person. It was clear, Jinho had been collecting information on everyone, especially the building owner. Then Song checked the system. Multiple phones were connected, all responsible for generating the noise. Jinho was behind everything. But why frame Song? Why create this chaos? Song didn't have the answers yet, but he knew he had to gather proof. Quickly, he took photos of everything. Just as he was about to leave, he heard the door open. Jinho had returned. With no time to escape, Song rushed to hide, squeezing himself into a cabinet, holding his breath, praying he wouldn't be discovered. Song waited in silence, hours passing slowly, until night finally fell and the noise came to a stop. The moment everything went quiet, his anger boiled over. After everything he had suffered, he wanted to kill Jinho. But just as he was about to act, the doorbell suddenly rang. Startled, Song quickly hid under the bed, holding his breath. A woman entered the apartment, the same woman who had been leaving complaint notes at his house. As she spoke, the truth unfolded. She had been working with Jinho all along, doing everything for money. But now, seeing Song back and realizing how far things had gone, she was terrified. She confessed that she had even sent her own husband to jail just to protect Jinho. But she couldn't do this anymore. She wanted out. Jinho, however, didn't understand her fear. Calmly, he offered her more money, asking her to continue for just a few more days. But this only fueled her anger. Frustrated and disgusted, she began destroying his tapes, the very evidence he had been collecting. In that instant, something snapped inside Jinho. Without hesitation, he grabbed a hammer and struck her head. Once, twice, killing her on the spot. Hidden beneath the bed, Song witnessed everything, frozen in horror. Moments later, Jinho received a call and stepped out of the apartment. Seeing his chance, Song tried to escape immediately. But as soon as he reached the door, Jinho was already there, standing calmly, as if he had been waiting all along. "I knew you were here," he said. Song's heart raced. He knew he could die at any moment. But before that happened, he needed answers. With trembling fear, he asked the one question that had been haunting him. "Why frame me?" Jinho smiled and finally revealed the truth. He wasn't just a random man. He was a journalist, searching for a story. And Song's life, according to him, was perfect. A man who invested everything into an apartment, only to fall apart and get caught in a scandal. It was the kind of story that could sell for a huge price. Jinho planned to sell it to the media, make money, and at the same time, destroy the building's value. Because if the building collapsed in reputation, the one who would suffer the most was Inho. When Song asked why he wanted to ruin the building, Jinho's tone turned cold. He revealed that the construction itself had faults, and because of that, he had already suffered massive losses. The walls always had strange noises, and that's when he came up with the idea. He installed the noise system, creating chaos and complaints, pushing the building toward destruction. Song broke down, shouting that he had suffered too. Why him? Why make him the scapegoat? Jinho answered without hesitation. He needed a face for the story, and Song was perfect. But now, you're useless, Jinho said, before attacking him. Just as things were about to end, Song quickly stopped him. He told Jinho to wait, claiming he had a plan that could help him take revenge. Jinho paused, suspicious. Why would someone he destroyed now want to help him? Song took a deep breath and played his final card. He told Jinho that he had witnessed the murder and could report him at any moment. But instead, he offered a deal. He would stay silent and even help dispose of the body. That would prove his loyalty. Jinho hesitated, but slowly he began to trust him. With a chilling warning that he would kill him if he betrayed him, Jinho accepted. And just like that, the two became partners. Together, they made their way to Inho's penthouse and launched their attack. Inside, Inho stood shaken and nervous. Jinho stepped forward and asked if he remembered him. He revealed everything, how he once knew the truth about Inho, a lawyer who entered the construction business, making money through corruption. Jinho had gathered evidence, tried to expose him, but instead, he was fired. His reports were silenced, and the truth was buried. Meanwhile, the apartments were sold at double the price, trapping innocent buyers like Song. Jinho's hatred had been growing ever since. That's why he bought a flat in the same building, just to watch, to wait, and to destroy him one day. In-ho tried to deny everything, but Jinho wasn't there for excuses. He demanded the account books, the proof of corruption. In-ho claimed she didn't know anything, saying her husband handled those matters. Without wasting a second, Jinho dragged her injured husband into the room and forced him to open the locker. But when it finally opened, the account books were not there. In-ho then turns towards Song, her voice suddenly soft, almost desperate. She said she knew who he was. Wo-song, the man she had deceived. She apologized, but not out of guilt, out of survival. She promised him everything he had lost, money, his apartment, even freedom from his crushing debts, if only he helped her. But Song, shaken and terrified, refused. He warned her that Jinho had already killed once and wouldn't hesitate to kill them all. In-ho leaned closer and whispered a plan. She told him to untie her, go to her office, and bring back a pistol. With trembling hands, Song followed her instructions. He retrieved the gun and slowly pointed it at Jinho. The moment Jinho saw this, his expression twisted with rage. He felt betrayed. Without hesitation, he lunged at Song. In the chaos, the gun slipped from Song's hand. Just as Jinho was about to kill him, In-ho grabbed the weapon and fired. But the shot didn't kill him. Instead, a strange gas filled the air. The gun wasn't meant to kill, it released a knockout gas. In-ho and her husband quickly covered their noses, and Song instinctively did the same. As Jinho collapsed, weakened, In-ho coldly ordered her injured husband to finish him. Using the last of his strength, the man obeyed and killed Jinho. Song stood there, completely stunned. But before he could even process what had happened, In-ho turned on him. She grabbed a hockey stick and began beating him mercilessly. As Song lay there, barely alive, she revealed her true feelings. She spat out her hatred for people like him, the poor who dared to dream of living among the elite. She mocked his greed, his ambition, and his existence. Then, almost proudly, she pointed out the very shelf where the account book had been all along. She confessed everything, knowing he wouldn't survive to tell anyone. She raised the stick one final time, ready to end him. But suddenly, everything changed. Jinho rose back to his feet. He had been pretending to be dead all along, waiting for this moment. With his last strength, he grabbed In-ho by the throat and strangled her, killing her right there. The room fell into silence. Jinho himself was barely alive now. Struggling to breathe, he told Song to take the account book and expose everything to the media. This was his final wish. Song picked up the book, but what he found inside changed everything. There was proof that In-ho had demolished his apartment, his life, his suffering. It was all part of something bigger. Slowly, Song walked toward the kitchen. Jinho, confused and weak, asked him what he was doing. Song stopped, turned slightly, and said something unexpected. He wasn't going to follow anyone's orders anymore. In that moment, he made his own decision. He placed the account book, along with all his debt papers, inside the microwave. Then he turned on the gas and calmly walked out of the apartment. Seconds later, a massive explosion tore through the penthouse. Song stood at a distance, watching silently as everything burned. With that single act, he erased all evidence, not just of the crimes, but of his own involvement and even his debts. But Song wasn't done yet. He made one final calculated move. He handed over the evidence from Jinho's surveillance setup to the police, but carefully avoided exposing the building's structural faults. Because he knew, if the truth came out, the property value would crash again. Instead, the news portrayed a different story. They claimed the building was perfectly fine and that Jinho had simply tried to ruin its reputation out of personal hatred. As a result, property prices began rising again, fixing everything that had once destroyed Song's life. In the end, Song returned to his apartment, smiling once more. The faint noise still echoed through the walls, a reminder that the flaw was never truly fixed. But this time, He didn't care. He had learned his lesson. He would sell the apartment, walk away, and start over. And that's where the story ends. Not as a tale of success, but as a brutal journey of survival.